Hi, welcome to these Organic Devotions, a weekly series of brief meditations emerging from life here on the farmstead and life in the Christian faith. Thanks for joining along. Lately, I have been thinking about tough exteriors. Last September, we planted hard red winter wheat in about half of the garden. Now adequately ripe, we've begun to harvest it with a hand sickle, tie it into shocks to ready it for use. And that's where the hard exteriors come in. The grain, the part of the plant you actually want, grows encased in a hard protective covering that stands between you and the ground flour you hope to bake into bread or some other delicious food. Liberating that grain takes some work. Toward that end, we've been learning more about those ancient practices called threshing and winnowing. Threshing, agitating the wheat vigorously enough to separate the wheat berries from the chaff. Winnowing, getting rid of everything except the seed. Our process, as you can see, is fairly crude, but it works. Although we've learned that some of that hard exterior is more stubborn than others and takes a good bit more agitation. It's all gotten me thinking about the strong emotions and reactive behaviors so prevalent around us that often lead to violence or surprising political choices. As a world, we've grown increasingly afraid for our lives, afraid for our way of life, afraid for our jobs and ability to support ourselves, afraid of the future, afraid of the unknown, afraid of the stranger, afraid of anything we don't recognize or that doesn't fit neatly into our way of understanding reality. And the natural response to fear is to raise our defenses, to wrap ourselves in that hard outer shell, that fortress-like shaft of self-protection. Of course, we don't think very well when we're inside of that wall. All of our inner resources have been diverted to defense. The problem is, just because our body tells us we are in danger doesn't necessarily mean that we actually are. Not being at our thinking best in that state of high alert, it's hard to discern if an enemy really is at the door or if that sound was simply one of those harmless things that goes bump in the night. And not knowing, we react to everything and everyone as a threat, a stress that takes its toll on our bodies and our relationships with everyone around us. Little wonder that the constant biblical word to people of faith is to not be afraid. Don't be afraid, God said to Abram in his travels, to Hagar in her barrenness, to Isaac in his wandering, to Rachel in her childbirth, to Moses in his slavery and the Israelites as they crossed over the waters, to Joshua in his battles, to Elijah as he faced the king, to Joseph when he learned that his betrothed was with child, to Mary when confronted by the angel, to the shepherds in the field, to the disciples huddled away behind locked doors, to us when we forget that the very hairs of our head are counted and that it is God's good pleasure to give us blessing. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Don't let them be afraid, Jesus told us. I am the first and the last and the living one. You need not be afraid. So, calm down, take a deep breath, pray, get out into nature, take your shoes off. Our better selves have not gone away. They've just gone into hiding inside those hard shells. Besides, some of this agitation might be just the thing to help us break free. I'd love to hear your suggestions for developing a more centered state of being. You can write me at organicdevotions@gmail.com. And in the meantime, I hope you'll join me here again next week. Don't be afraid. Bye-bye.